The silent watchers. In the vast expanse of space, humanity had always been more than they appeared. While alien civilizations saw Earth as a barely spacefaring world of primitive rockets and orbital stations, the truth lay hidden beneath the surface of Mars and deep within the asteroids of the solar system. For centuries, humanity had watched, learned, and prepared. The first alien signals were detected in 2047, but instead of broadcasting their presence to the cosmos, humanity chose silence. They watched as great empires rose and fell among the stars, as trade routes crisscrossed the galaxy, and as sophisticated technologies transformed worlds. Earth's leaders had made a decisive choice: to develop in isolation, learning from the successes and failures of others without becoming entangled in their conflicts. By 2345, Earth's hidden fleets could have rivaled any in the galaxy. Quantum computers that could predict battle outcomes with unprecedented accuracy, ships that could bend space itself, and weapons that could target the fabric of reality, all concealed within the silent walls of underground bases and asteroid facilities. The public face of humanity remained unchanged, a species still struggling with chemical rockets and basic space stations. The deception served humanity well until the day the Void Hunters appeared. They came from the spaces between galaxies, moving like living shadows across the stellar sea. The first signs were subtle: entire solar systems going dark, their signals disappearing from the quantum receivers that humanity had scattered across thousands of light years. The galactic community's response was swift but futile. The Arachnid Empire, proud masters of biological warfare, launched their living ships against the Hunters. Their fleet vanished without a trace. The Crystal Concordat, whose energy weapons could shatter planets, found their beams passing harmlessly through the Hunter vessels. One by one, the great powers of the galaxy discovered that their most advanced weapons were useless against this new threat. Humanity watched through their hidden network of quantum observers as civilization after civilization fell. The Hunters didn't communicate, didn't negotiate, and didn't take prisoners. They simply consumed energy, matter, information, life itself, leaving nothing but empty husks of worlds in their wake. Admiral Sarah Chen stood in the Strategic Command Center deep beneath Olympus Mons, watching the galactic map as another cluster of stars went dark. "How long until they reach the nearest populated system to Earth?" she asked, her voice steady despite the weight of the moment. "At their current rate of advance, 18 months, replied Dr. James Okoro, Earth's leading expert on the Hunters. "But that's assuming they maintain their current pattern. They're becoming more efficient with each system they consume." The room fell silent as the implications sank in. For 3 centuries, humanity had built its strength in secret, developing technologies and strategies that no other species had conceived. They had planned for war, for invasion, for first contact gone wrong. But not for this. Not for an enemy that defied the laws of physics themselves. "Show me the Cassini footage again," Chen ordered, and the holographic display shifted to show grainy images captured by humanity's deep space sensors. The Hunter vessels moved like oil on water, their surfaces rippling with patterns that hurt the eyes to look at. Traditional sensors couldn't track them, and even quantum observations seemed to slide off their surfaces. But humanity had one advantage that the rest of the galaxy lacked. They had watched every major conflict for centuries, learning not just from the victories but from the failures. They had developed their technology in isolation, following paths that no other species had explored. "We've detected something interesting," Dr. Okoro said, manipulating the holographic controls. "The Hunters don't just consume matter and energy. They consume information. They're not just destroying civilizations, they're erasing them from existence itself." Chen's eyes narrowed. "And that's why conventional weapons don't work. You can't fight something that can simply erase the information that makes up the weapon itself." "Exactly," Okoro agreed. "But we've developed our technology along different lines. Our quantum-entangled systems, our reality-bending drives, they operate on principles the Hunters haven't encountered before. A message flashed across the command center screens. A massive refugee fleet had just appeared at the edge of the solar system, having fled the fall of the Arachnid Empire's capital. They were broadcasting on all frequencies, begging for sanctuary. Chen straightened her uniform. It seems the time for hiding is over. Humanity can no longer afford to be silent. Send word to all commands. Operation Lightbringer is now in effect. As the refugee fleet approached Earth, they would find not the primitive civilization they expected, but humanity's true face. A species that had turned isolation into strength, observation into power, and patience into an art of war. The Silent Watchers were about to show the galaxy why they had chosen to remain hidden for so long. The first phase of humanity's response was already in motion. Deep within asteroid bases and planetary bunkers, ships unlike anything the galaxy had seen before prepared for launch. Humanity had watched the galaxy for centuries. Now it was time for the galaxy to watch humanity. The broken accord. The refugee fleet's arrival shattered centuries of careful secrecy. 53 ships of various designs and origins, their hulls bearing the scars of desperate escape, carried the last survivors of 7 different species. As they approached Earth's orbit, they expected to find a primitive civilization barely capable of spaceflight. Instead, they watched in stunned silence as the facade of humanity's technological limitations melted away. The orbital stations that had appeared so primitive transformed, quantum fields dissolving to reveal massive fortresses bristling with weapons that defied conventional physics. From the surface of Mars, enormous hangar doors opened in the side of Olympus Mons, revealing fleets of ships that had never been recorded in any galactic database. First Contact Commander Elena Santos stood aboard the Terran flagship Prometheus, watching the refugee fleet through quantum-enhanced sensors. "Their ships are failing," she reported to Admiral Chen. "Multiple systems are showing critical damage from their encounter with the hunters." The refugees had brought with them the first detailed recordings of a hunter attack. The footage played across the command center screens. Crystalline warships of the Meridian Covenant, among the most advanced in known space, simply ceased to exist when the hunters engaged them. Not destroyed, erased, as if they had never been. The Covenant's quantum-locked data cores survived, Dr. Okoro reported, analyzing the readings. The hunters couldn't completely erase them because they operated on principles similar to our own technology. This confirms our theory. They're not just destroying matter, they're unwriting the information that defines reality itself. The refugee fleet's leaders were brought to the Prometheus for an emergency council. Representatives from species that had once been bitter enemies now sat together, united by desperation. Admiral Chen studied them as they entered the conference room. The crystalline form of a Meridian Covenant elder, the multi-body consciousness of an Arachnid queen mind, the energy-based intelligence of a photonic collective member. "You've been watching this," the elder stated, its crystalline form refracting light in patterns that conveyed both accusation and admiration. "All these centuries, while we thought you primitive, you were studying us." "We were learning," Chen replied simply. "Every conflict, every technological advancement, every diplomatic crisis, they all taught us something. We chose to develop differently, to explore paths that no other civilization considered." The Queen Mind's multiple bodies shifted in agitation. "The hunters have consumed 12 major civilizations. Nothing stops them, even our most advanced weapons. Your weapons all operate on principles the hunters understand," Dr. Okoro interrupted. "Energy weapons, matter conversion, even your quantum technologies. They're all based on similar fundamental assumptions about how reality works. We took a different path." He activated a holographic display, showing the principles behind humanity's technological development. While the galaxy focused on manipulating energy and matter, we explored the manipulation of information itself. Our quantum computers don't just process data, they alter the fundamental information state of reality. The photonic collective member pulsed with interest. "This is why your technology appears different to our sensors. You're not just building machines. You're writing new rules into the fabric of space-time. Precisely, Chen confirmed. And now we need your help. Your civilization's combined knowledge, combined with our unique approach, might be our only chance to stop the hunters before they consume everything. The refugees' response was immediate and unanimous. The old accords that had governed galactic civilization were already broken. The time had come for something new. Within hours, the transfer of knowledge began. Humanity's hidden cities and orbital facilities opened to receive refugees, each bringing with them technologies and insights that would prove crucial in the coming battle. But more importantly, they'd brought perspective, centuries of experience that would help humanity refine their unique approaches. Deep within the Prometheus's quantum core, a new kind of weapon was taking shape. If the hunters fought by unwriting reality, humanity would respond by rewriting it. The refugees watched in amazement as human scientists and engineers worked with principles that their own civilizations had never conceived. We've been fighting them wrong, the elder realized, watching the humans work. All this time, we thought we needed stronger weapons, better shields. But you're not building weapons at all, are you? Admiral Chen smiled grimly. No, we're building something the hunters can't erase, because it's not a weapon. It's a new way of existing. The prototype took shape, a device that didn't just protect against the hunters' reality-erasing powers, but turned their own abilities against them. By manipulating the fundamental information state of space-time itself, it could preserve what the hunters tried to erase and reflect their attacks back at them. But as the work progressed, the galaxy grew darker. More systems went silent. The hunters were accelerating their advance, as if they sensed that something was changing. Humanity's centuries of patience were about to be tested against an enemy that threatened not just life, but existence itself. The refugee fleet became a symbol of hope, not because they had escaped the hunters, but because they had found something that no one had expected. A civilization that had chosen to develop in secret, preparing for a threat that no one else had imagined could exist. The broken accord of the old galactic order was giving way to something new, something that combined humanity's unique innovations with the accumulated wisdom of countless alien civilizations. As the last pieces of the prototype fell into place, Admiral Chen received word that another cluster of systems had gone dark. The hunters were getting closer, but for the first time since they had appeared, they were about to face something truly new. A species that had spent centuries watching, learning, and preparing for a fight that would determine not just the fate of humanity, but the very nature of existence itself. Children of Terra. The first test of humanity's new defensive system came sooner than expected. A hunter scout vessel appeared at the edge of the Kuiper Belt, its reality-warping form sending ripples through space-time. Instead of retreating or attacking, humanity was ready with a response that would change the course of the war. Captain Maya Rodriguez stood at the helm of the HSS Helix, humanity's first dedicated hunter-killer vessel. Unlike the sleek warships of other species, the Helix looked almost organic, its hull covered in fractal patterns that seemed to shift and change as you watched them. This wasn't merely aesthetic. Every curve and pattern was part of an intricate system designed to manipulate the fundamental structure of reality itself. Target is maintaining position, her XO reported. It appears to be analyzing our defensive grid. Maya allowed herself a small smile. The hunters were about to learn why humanity had chosen such a different path of development. Initialize the Mobius protocol, she ordered. The Helix's quantum core hummed to life, its fractal patterns beginning to pulse with an inner light. Dr. Okuro's voice came through the command channel from his position in the Mars Strategic Command. Remember, Captain, this isn't just a weapon. It's a representation of a completely new way of thinking about reality. The hunter vessel made its move, launching the same kind of reality-erasing attack that had consumed so many civilizations. But this time, something different happened. As the attack reached the Helix, the ship's fractal patterns flared to life, catching the hunter's assault in a web of quantum relationships. Mobius protocol engaging, Maya reported, watching as her ship's systems did something that should have been impossible. Instead of trying to resist or deflect the hunter's attack, the Helix absorbed it, channeled it through its fractal architecture, and turned it back on itself. The hunter vessel seemed to hesitate, if such a thing was possible for these enigmatic beings. Its reality warping field fluctuated, as if encountering something it couldn't process. Then, caught in the reflected power of its own attack, amplified and transformed by human quantum technology, the hunter began to unright itself. In the observation chamber aboard the Prometheus, the refugee leaders watched in stunned silence. The Meridian Elder's crystalline form vibrated with excitement. They've done it. They've actually found a way to turn the hunter's own nature against them. Admiral Chen nodded grimly. This is just the beginning. The Helix is a prototype. We have an entire fleet of ships being retrofitted with this technology now. The Queen Mind's multiple bodies moved in perfect synchronization as she analyzed the data. But this is more than just a weapon. You've created a new way of interacting with reality itself. That's what makes it effective, Dr. Okoro explained. The hunters erase information from reality. We've created a system that not only preserves that information but reflects it back in a way that forces them to confront their own nature. The victory, though significant, was just the first step. Within hours, the Hunter Scout's destruction was noticed. 3 more Hunter vessels appeared, larger and more powerful than the Scout. But humanity was ready. Maya's voice came through the command channel, calm and focused. Multiple Hunter signatures detected. Deploying the fleet. From hidden bases across the solar system, humanity's true military power emerged. Ships of all sizes, each covered in the same reality-altering fractal patterns as the Helix, moved into formation. This wasn't just a defensive force. It was the culmination of centuries of hidden development and observation. The battle that followed would be remembered for generations. The hunters launched attack after attack, trying to erase humanity's ships from existence. But each attempt was caught in the quantum webs of fractal patterns, reflected, amplified, and turned back against them. For the first time, the hunters faced an enemy that didn't just resist their attacks, but used their own nature as a weapon against them. In the aftermath, as the last hunter vessel disappeared into its own unmaking, the refugee leaders gathered again on the Prometheus. The Photonic Collective member pulsed with a new kind of energy. You didn't just build better weapons, it observed. You created a new philosophy of warfare. Admiral Chen's response was measured. We had centuries to watch how the galaxy's civilizations fought their wars. We saw that bigger weapons, stronger shields, faster ships, none of that would be enough against an enemy that could simply erase you from existence. So we chose a different path. The success of the Helix and its sister ships marked a turning point in the war. Word spread quickly through quantum channels to the remaining free systems. Humanity, the supposedly primitive species that had hidden at the edges of known space, had found a way to fight the hunters. But victory brought its own challenges. The hunters would adapt, learn, find new ways to attack, and humanity would need to be ready. In the depths of their hidden facilities, new innovations were already taking shape. The children of Terra had shown the galaxy that there was another way to fight, not with brute force, but with understanding and innovation. As Maya Rodriguez stood on the observation deck of the Helix, watching Earth's sunset through quantum-enhanced viewers, she reflected on how far humanity had come. From hiding their true nature to becoming the galaxy's best hope for survival, they had transformed themselves while remaining true to their core principle, that the best way to fight an enemy is not to match their strength, but to understand and transform it. The real war was just beginning, but for the first time since the hunters appeared, the galaxy had hope. The children of Terra had risen from their self-imposed isolation, bringing with them not just new weapons, but a new way of thinking about existence itself. The question now was not if they could win, but how their victory would reshape the very nature of galactic civilization. The counter-strike. The war room beneath Olympus Mons hummed with activity as Admiral Chen studied the galactic map. Hundreds of quantum sensors tracked hunter movements across space, their signatures now recognizable thanks to data from the recent battles. But something had changed. The hunters were no longer advancing randomly. They were gathering. They're adapting. Maya Rodriguez, now fleet commander after her success with the Helix, pointed out. 3 major hunter fleets converging here at the remains of the Meridian Covenant's capital system. The holographic display showed the movement of hunter vessels, their reality-distorting signatures leaving traces that human quantum sensors could now track. What had once appeared as random consumption of systems now revealed itself as a strategic pattern. They're not just adapting, Dr. Okoro corrected, his fingers dancing across quantum interfaces. They're evolving. Each encounter with our technology teaches them something new. They're learning to resist the Mobius protocol. The Refugee Council members, now integrated into Earth's strategic command, watched with growing concern. The Meridian Elders' crystalline form pulsed with worried light. If they succeed in combining their forces. They won't, Chen interrupted, because we're going to launch Operation Prometheus now. The plan had been in development since the first successful defense of the solar system. While the rest of the galaxy saw humanity's fractal ships and quantum weapons as their primary advantage, the true power of Earth's forces lay in something else entirely, their ability to understand and predict their enemy's evolution. Maya brought up the tactical display. The hunter fleets are moving exactly as our quantum predictions suggested. They're not just gathering, they're trying to create something new, a combined form that could resist our countermeasures. Then we strike before they can complete their evolution, Chen declared. All ships initiate Operation Prometheus. Across the solar system, humanity's fleet mobilized. But this was no conventional military force. Each ship was unique, its fractal patterns specifically designed to counter different aspects of the hunter's abilities. The Helix led the vanguard, its systems now upgraded with innovations born from their first encounter with the enemy. The human fleet moved through space using principles that defied conventional physics. Instead of traveling through space, they traveled through the information that defined space itself, appearing near the hunter gathering point without warning. The battle began immediately. The hunters, caught in the midst of their convergence, launched attacks that would have annihilated any conventional force. But humanity had prepared for this moment. Each ship in the fleet activated its unique variant of the Mobius protocol, creating a web of quantum relationships that didn't just defend against the hunters' reality-erasing powers, it began to rewrite the very rules of engagement. Maya's voice cut through the quantum comm channels. Pattern Alpha confirmed. Execute Symphony Protocol. The human fleet moved in perfect synchronization, their fractal patterns linking together to create something unprecedented. A macro-scale quantum field that began to alter the fundamental nature of space-time around the hunter fleet. This wasn't just a battle, it was a rewriting of reality itself. The hunters responded with desperate fury, their combined fleet attempting to complete its evolution into a new form. But humanity had learned from centuries of watching others fight. They didn't target the hunters directly. Instead, they began changing the very environment in which the hunters existed. Symphony Protocol at full power, Maya reported. Reality distortion field expanding. The space around the hunter fleet began to shimmer as human technology rewrote its fundamental properties. The hunter's ability to erase information from existence met a space where the very rules of information had been rewritten. Their attacks didn't just fail. They became part of humanity's weapon against them. In the war room, the Refugee Council watched in awe as the battle unfolded. The Photonic Collective member pulsed with understanding. They're not just fighting the hunters, they're changing the battlefield itself. Dr. Okoro nodded. We learned from watching the galaxy's wars. Everyone always focused on building better weapons, but we saw that the real key was to change the context in which those weapons operated. The hunter fleet's attempted convergence began to fail as the space around them became increasingly hostile to their very nature. Ships that had once erased entire civilizations from existence found themselves unable to maintain their own coherence in a reality that no longer operated according to rules they understood. But victory came with a price. Several human ships, their fractal patterns overwhelmed by the intensity of the reality distortion, began to fail. Maya's voice remained steady as she ordered them to retreat, their crews safely preserved by quantum backup systems, another innovation born from centuries of preparation. As the battle reached its climax, the Hunter fleet made one final desperate attempt to complete its evolution. But in doing so, they played directly into humanity's trap. The Symphony Protocol reached its peak, and the space around the Hunter fleet transformed completely. The result was beyond even humanity's predictions. The Hunters didn't just fail to evolve. Their attempted transformation became a cascade of unraveling existence that consumed their entire fleet. In trying to adapt to human technology, they had made themselves vulnerable to its most fundamental principle, the ability to rewrite the rules of reality itself. In the aftermath, as the human fleet regrouped and began rescue operations for the damaged ships, Admiral Chen addressed the combined forces of humanity and their alien allies. "This victory is significant, but it's not the end," she warned. "We've shown that the Hunters can be defeated, but we've also shown them something they've never encountered before. They will adapt, evolve, try to find new ways to counter our technology. But so will we." The Refugee Council members, watching from the Strategic Command Center, finally understood why humanity had chosen to develop in isolation for so long. They hadn't just been building weapons or defenses, they had been preparing to change the very nature of warfare itself. As the fleet began its return journey to Earth, carrying with it data that would lead to new innovations and strategies, Maya stood on the Helix's bridge, watching the quantum readings of space returning to normal. "We've changed everything, haven't we?" she asked over a private channel to Chen. "We had to," the Admiral replied. "Because sometimes the only way to win isn't to fight harder, it's to change the game entirely." Legacy of Earth. 1 year after Operation Prometheus, Earth had transformed from a hidden sanctuary to the center of a new galactic civilization. The remaining Hunter forces had fragmented, their ability to coordinate disrupted by humanity's reality-altering technology. But the war's greatest impact wasn't military, it was cultural. In the grand chamber of what had once been the Strategic Command Center under Olympus Mons, Admiral Chen stood before representatives from over 300 species. Some were refugees from the Hunter attacks, others were civilizations that had survived on the fringes, and still others were newly discovered societies that had hidden themselves just as humanity once had. "The Hunters forced us all to evolve," Chen began, her voice carrying across the chamber. "Not just technologically, but in how we think about existence itself. Humanity's isolation wasn't just about survival. It was about finding a different way to understand reality." The chamber itself reflected this evolution. Quantum fields shimmered between delegates, allowing instantaneous translation and shared understanding that went beyond mere words. The fractal patterns that had proven so effective against the Hunters now served as the foundation for a new kind of communication and cooperation. Maya Rodriguez, her uniform now bearing the insignia of Grand Fleet Commander, stood at a holographic display showing the latest Hunter engagements. The remaining fragments of the once unstoppable force were being systematically contained, not through destruction, but through transformation. "We've confirmed that the latest adaptation of the Symphony Protocol is holding," she reported. "The Hunter remnants aren't being destroyed. They're being rewritten into forms that can no longer threaten existence itself." Dr. Okoro, now leading the newly established Quantum Reality Institute, stepped forward. "But the real breakthrough isn't in how we fight the Hunters. It's in what we learned from them." He gestured, and the holographic display shifted to show something new. A representation of reality itself, not as fixed and unchangeable, but as a canvas of infinite possibility. "The Hunters showed us that reality isn't just something we exist within, it's something we can actively shape," he explained. "Humanity's approach, developed in isolation, gave us the tools. but it's the combined knowledge of all our civilizations that's showing us how to use those tools responsibly. The Meridian Elder, its crystalline form now incorporating elements of human fractal technology, chimed in. We thought we were advanced because we could manipulate energy and matter. Humanity showed us that true advancement lies in understanding the relationship between consciousness and reality itself. Around Earth, the evidence of this new understanding was impossible to ignore. The quantum shipyards of Mars now produced vessels that didn't just travel through space, but harmonized with it. The refugee cities that had sprung up across the solar system weren't just places of sanctuary. They were laboratories where different species learned to combine their unique perspectives with humanity's revolutionary approach to existence. The Queen Mind, her multiple bodies now serving as nodes in a vast quantum network, addressed the assembly. The hunters sought to consume information, to erase existence itself. In doing so, they pushed us to discover how to preserve and transform information in ways we never imagined possible. But humanity's greatest legacy wasn't in their technology or their victories. It was in the philosophy that had guided their development. The idea that true strength comes not from dominance, but from understanding. The fractal patterns that had proven so effective against the hunters were now being adapted to heal damaged worlds, to restore ecosystems, and to preserve the knowledge and cultures that had nearly been lost. Admiral Chen moved to the center of the chamber, where a new device hummed with quantum energy. "This is the Nexus," she announced. "Not a weapon, not a shield, but a tool for shaping reality itself. Built not just with human innovation, but with the wisdom and insights of every species represented here." The Nexus activated, and the chamber filled with a soft light that seemed to emanate from the space between spaces. Every being present felt a connection, not just to each other, but to the fabric of reality itself. This was humanity's true gift to the galaxy, not the power to destroy or dominate, but the ability to understand and shape existence in harmony with all living things. "The hunters taught us that existence itself is mutable," Chen continued, "but they sought to exploit that mutability for destruction. We choose to use it for creation, for preservation, for growth." As she spoke, quantum sensors detected the last major hunter force attempting to reorganize itself in a distant system. But this time, the response wasn't just military. The combined fleet that moved to meet them carried not just weapons, but the means of transformation. The hunters would not be destroyed. They would be changed, their nature rewritten until they could rejoin the great dance of existence without threatening to end it. Maya stood at the helm of the Helix one last time, leading this final mission not as a warrior, but as a guardian of a new way of being. The fractal patterns on her ship's hull now resonated with the combined wisdom of hundreds of civilizations, each adding their own understanding to humanity's revolutionary approach. We spent centuries watching the galaxy, learning from every victory and defeat, she transmitted to the fleet. Now it's time to show that the greatest victory isn't in ending existence, but in transforming it. The legacy of Earth would not be remembered in weapons or battles, but in the fundamental change they brought to how conscious beings understood their place in existence. Humanity had emerged from isolation, not as conquerors or saviors, but as teachers, showing that the true power of consciousness lies not in domination, but in understanding and transformation. As the combined fleet moved into position around the last hunter force, their fractal patterns began to pulse with new purpose. This wasn't an end, it was a beginning. The children of Terra had shown the galaxy not just how to survive, but how to evolve, and in doing so, they had written a new chapter in the story of consciousness itself. The war that had threatened to erase existence had instead transformed it, and at its heart was a species that had chosen to watch, to learn, and to understand before acting. In the end, humanity's greatest weapon wasn't their technology or their strategies. It was their perspective, their ability to see reality not as something to fight against, but as something to understand and shape in harmony with all conscious beings.